Jerry Jones does it again. To get more insight on the latest standoff between Jerry and one of his star players looking to get paid, and also discuss maybe a team I don't think getting enough credit around the league. Let's go out to the hotline right now and welcome on Garrett Podell of CBS Sports, who does a great job covering not only the Dallas Cowboys, but also the NFL as a whole. Garrett, what's going on, man? How are you?
I'm doing great, Ryan. Awesome to be here with you. I'm about to head out to Oxnard tomorrow to give you all the boots on the ground reporting for the next week. I'll be at joint practice on Tuesday, the preseason opener, Rams Cowboys on Saturday. I'm fired up. I mean, I guess I couldn't have picked a better week to go out there, huh?
You are right about that, Garrett. Man, yeah, very few storylines coming out of Cowboys camp as you get set to touchdown in California tomorrow. That is for sure. So let's ask the obvious question first here, Garrett. Is there any chance, in your opinion, that the Cowboys actually do trade Micah Parsons between now and week number 1?
I highly doubt that, Ryan. I think when Jerry Jones spoke Saturday at camp, I mean, he said he viewed Micah Parsons' trade request as a negotiation strategy, as posturing. And then he referenced, I've been through this for 30 years, citing his Emmitt Smith negotiations that led to a holdout and him missing the first 2 games of the 93 season and then playing all the way to Dak and CD last year, who CD got done at the end of camp, Dak hours before kickoff in week 1 in Cleveland against the Browns. So I still believe that Micah Parsons will re-sign. His brother, Terrence Parsons, he's a fun follow on Twitter. And when Jerry said that, Terrence commented, Jerry knows what's up. So I think both sides still do want to end up together in Dallas. Now, it's just going to be up to Jerry to maybe apologize to Micah for some of his comments, like when he mistakenly said, yeah, Micah missed 6 games last year. It was really 4. And kind of criticizing Micah getting hurt, ankle sprain that only cost him 4 games last year. He's only missed 5 in his entire career. I think, some fences need to be mended, but I think if Jerry gets the money right, top of the market deal, highest paid non-quarterback, that both sides will eventually be able to come together here.
We're talking to Garrett Podell of CBS Sports. I mean, this is not, anything new, right, for Jerry? Like you just referenced just last year alone, Dak and CD went through this. You mentioned Emmitt Smith. Like this is basically, for the most part, any star player that's on the Cowboys that wants to get paid, this is what happens. It's drawn out. There's a lot of drama, a lot of barbs shared, especially now in this new era of social media. Quotes can spread and there's more media access than ever. So Jerry can get his time in. Micah Parsons can get his quotes in here as well. We're having this debate to start the show here. And so I'm curious your thoughts because you cover this team well. I would make the argument, Garrett, that Jerry Jones is one of the worst owners in NFL history, just from the on-the-field perspective, because he, I think, does take away from winning by always constantly having these battles between him and his star player that last weeks and months. I think it makes it tough, from a team perspective sometimes to buy in. How would you look at Jerry's run as an owner? Would you categorize it as maybe, as one of the worst owners in NFL history we've seen?
Well, that's a very nuanced question, Ryan. I think many owners who are in the running for worst NFL owner title would love to have 3 Super Bowl wins under their belt, right? So, right. I mean, he buys a team in 1989. They were horrible, 1-15 his first year. And then, boom, the 90s happen. They become the first team in NFL history to win 3 Super Bowls in a 4-year span from 92 to 95. And so almost any owner in football would take that. Now, obviously, those runs were made before the NFL had a salary cap. The collective bargaining agreement that brought about a salary cap was only really in effect for that last Super Bowl run he had in 1995. So if we're talking about purely on-field, now once again, ownership, you factor in off-field. Jerry bought the team for however, $100 million. Right. And now that it's the most valuable sports franchise on the planet at around $15 billion, even more valuable than some European soccer clubs that have global followings. So off the field, business has been great. On the field, you could certainly make the case that drawing out negotiations, and getting in these public feuds, doesn't help the team from a salary cap perspective or locker room. I use this example a lot when talking about this subject. The Philadelphia Eagles, who are in their division, they just won the Super Bowl. They have 7 or 8 guys on their roster whose average per year salary is $20 million or higher. Cowboys have at the moment, I believe it's just three: Dak, CD, and defensive tackle Osa Odigizua, who re-signed on a 4-year, $80 million deal at the beginning of this offseason. And remarkably, the two teams in their 2025 cap space numbers, very similar, within a few $1,000,000. So you might wonder, how is it possible for the Eagles, who have way more $20 million a year players, to have a similar amount of cap space in 2025 to the Cowboys when that gap is so big? Well, it's because they get guys done early, 2-3 years in advance. They're able to manipulate and spread the money around, and that makes it a lot easier to build a team. And so in recent years, like you mentioned, from a team building perspective, I do think these drawn out negotiations certainly hurt winning. I mean, because they're the only team in the NFC in the last 29, 30 years that hasn't made the NFC title game, now that Washington made it this past year and Detroit made it the year before. So, yeah, on field, you can certainly make a debate in the 21st century that he's one of the worst, given his team's the only NFC team to not make it to the NFL Final Four in the last 25 years.
Talking to Garrett Podell of CBS Sports. Check out his work on Twitter at Garrett Podell, Podell. Garrett, so, right, Micah Parsons, Terry McLaurin, Trey Hendrickson, three big-name players all holding in, looking for new deals. I'm curious, out of those three situations, do you view any of them from the team perspective as you understanding the team's reluctance to pay that star player?
I would say the one I understand the most is probably Washington, the Commanders, and Terry McLaurin, because one of my coworkers at CBS Sports, Doug Clausen, he's probably our best football researcher, really great job, and he does some writing for us too at cbssports.com. He wrote a really great case study of NFL wide receivers once they cross 30 and the dip in production, even for Pro Bowl wide receivers. And McLaurin turns 30 during the season this year. And so, yes, Terry McLaurin did come off the best year of his career last year with Jaden Daniels, 13 touchdown catches, second most in the NFL, most in a single season in Commanders history. So obviously the production's there. Jaden Daniels, rookie of the year. They went to the NFC title game, thrived with Terry as their number one option. But from a long-term perspective, I understand when you look at how a lot of receivers age once they cross 30, maybe the reluctance. But I feel like McLaurin still has leverage there despite that history, because who else is Daniels going to throw to? Deebo Samuel, who they traded for this offseason, he's coming off a year in which he averaged a career low 53.7 scrimmage yards per game. So he really struggled with injuries. And when he was out there, didn't have the same burst. Then you have Noah Brown, who's kind of bounced around a few teams. Michael Gallup, a former Cowboy who just unretired after having really bad knee injuries. So you look around in Washington, they don't really have another option than to re-sign Terry McLaurin, in my opinion. But I understand their reluctance.
Interesting. We're talking to Garrett Podell of CBS Sports. Does a great job covering the NFL. Lastly here, Garrett, I kind of want to just pick your brain on the rest of the league here. There's been a lot of talk, right, as we get ready for 2025. Training camps are underway. Is there a team you look at going into the season that maybe is the most underrated, not getting the love you think they deserve, that could really make some big-time noise here in 2025?
That's an interesting question. And to me, I would probably say Green Bay Packers. And
okay.
I feel like in Matt LaFleur's tenure as the head coach, they haven't quite gotten, the respect that, a lot of teams would get given the circumstances. So each of the last 2 years, the 2023 Packers and the 2024 Packers were the two youngest teams to make the playoffs in the last 45 years. So, they kind of quietly rebuilt and turned over the entire roster after trading away Aaron Rodgers in 2023 and making way for Jordan Love. And all they've done is continue to make the postseason. 2023, they smoked the Dallas Cowboys in the opening round and had the eventual NFC champion 49ers on the ropes last year, hanging around the fourth quarter with the Philadelphia Eagles, who won the Super Bowl, ended up losing in the first round. But I really like what they've done, adding Matthew Golden. I think he can be a really consistent deep threat for them. And then when they get Christian Watson back, that pass game could look really nice. And Josh Jacobs showed he's one of the best 5 running backs in football. And on the other side of the ball, first-year defensive coordinator last year, Jeff Hafley, had the Packers as a top 10 scoring defense. I believe they were 6th or 7th in points allowed per game. And so, another year in that system, they could maybe even be a little tighter on some things schematically. So I think the arrow is pointing up for this Packers team that's continuing to age into being a contender. And I don't think they're getting quite the amount of love that maybe you deserve.
We were on in Milwaukee. A lot of Packers fans, I'm sure, overjoyed to hear that, Garrett. That is for sure. Garrett Podell does a great job covering the NFL for CBS Sports. Make sure you do follow his insight at Garrett Podell, again, Podell, as Garrett will be in Oxnard at Cowboys camp this week starting tomorrow. Safe travels out to California, Garrett, and enjoy what I'm sure will be an absolute media circus the entirety of your time down there at Cowboys camp. Enjoy, and thank you again for the time.
Thanks again for having me, Ryan. And yeah, anytime, if anything explodes over at Oxnard, you know where to find me.